Realistic is it? Earlier this month, the executive presented next year's draft appropriation bill to the National Assembly. And National Assembly has now broken off into committees so that ministers can defend their sections of the budget. Which brings me to our big hard fact for today. Yeah, the Defense Ministry has the largest allocation in the draft budget with over 1.1 trillion naira. No big surprise there, if you ask me, considering the multiple security challenges in the country. But there's a lot more to running a country than defense. And the government has to make sure that it can allocate enough resources to enough boxes to keep things running. So today, let's take a look at the draft budget. Let's take a look at how well it handles these requirements. My guest is the co-founder of Budget, Seun Onigbinde. Thank you so much for coming back on Hard Facts.
It's a pleasure being here again today, Sandra. I'm glad to be here today.
Okay. Yeah. And Lagos, we want to hear from you as well. What are your questions or observations about the draft budget, if you've had time to take a look at it? Now, I want us to start with some of the assumptions made in the draft budget. I always start at the oil price benchmark. So they're benchmarking oil at $57 per barrel. Oil production is 1.88 million barrels a day. Exchange rate is 410 naira to a dollar, 410 naira 15 kobo to a dollar. Real GDP growth is 4.20% per annum. Inflation rate is 13%. So so these are some of the assumptions made in this budget. Which of these do you think are realistic, Seun? And which ones do you think are not so realistic?
Okay, when you make assumptions for the budget, you not just look at the now, you also look at the future.
Right.
But if we are going to judge by the now, and we're dealing with a very volatile product here, oil prices are around $86 per barrel right now.
Right.
3 months ago, they were not even doing half of. They were doing quarters of that.
Right.
So definitely, you never know. But oil prices at 57 is a conservative figure. That's a decent conservative figure, and that's good enough. It might be higher. The National Assembly, I may expect that they will bring it a notch higher.
Okay.
You just understand that they will be watching that if we get more money from oil, we can reduce deficits. If we get more money from oil, then we can possibly even be able to put in new projects into the budget. So, that's always the politics of the oil price, benchmark price. But it looks decent. The production is 1.8 million, yes. But let's not forget that there's a cap of production that was enforced by the OPEC just to prop up oil prices. So now that oil prices are on the rise now, the question would be that would this change the dynamics of things? Does it mean that oil prices being high? Because now oil price being high is a product of tight oil demand.
Right.
So if oil producers can gush more supply into the market, then definitely the price will come down. So those are the decisions that OPEC might have to take in the next few months. I might decide the trajectory of things. But I see that oil prices will be above $60 per barrel next year.
Okay.
We're in a post-pandemic recovery. Well, we never know. We pray that there's
hopefully we stay here.
That what has happened.
Yeah.
But we are in a post-pandemic recovery. By the time you look at other metrics, if you which is like the how do I call it? The inflation rate.
13%. Real GDP growth is 4.20%. Exchange rate is 410 naira, 15 kobo to $1.
Yeah, and I guess that's where it becomes a bit exaggerated for me, or maybe unrealistic for me. So if you're planning to growing at 4%, that looks possible. Because it's like when you were in 10 and you went to 8, and you're trying to jump back again to 10 or 11. Growth can look like growth itself can look like I won't say unrealistic, but can be deceptive. That's the word I'm trying to look for.
Okay.
Because we have had recession. That means the growth itself had sunk. So if you grow back, if you move from 10 and to 7, and you're trying to get back to 9, it looks as if you are growing. But reality is that Nigeria's GDP per capita is is worse than it was 10 years ago. So it's not like we are growing. But even if we are growing, we're not growing at the rate of population growth. The population growth of Nigeria is faster than GDP growth,
right.
which explains that even our GDP per capita will continuously even make a fall back. So in my view, an exchange rate at 410, we have to be realistic. That is not our exchange rate. And if the federal government wants to peg at 410, let them provide dollars. The CBN provide dollar for everybody at 410. If you can't meet that demand at 410, then why do we want? Because in the end of the day, we underfund the budget. We know if I make $10 million and I'm supposed to multiply at 410, it's less than multiplying at 520 or 570, what the rate is in the market. So I think that exchange rate should be more reflective of what the market is. It's not helpful, especially for states. The federal government can find ways and means to make itself fine. It can borrow because it's a sovereign entity. But for a lot of states, that also depend on monetization of crude oil rents. And you're supposed to you 10 million, and CBN is undercutting you by paying an exchange rate that is less than what it should be. The market says. I think it's not helpful.
Not realistic.
It's not realistic. But I look at all the other things. I hope the inflation will be 13%, but I hope that we will get we'll get a 4% GDP growth rate. Like I said, it's just that we have been in a slump, so there's a
we're recovering at the moment. The bill estimates that 10 trillion naira in revenue will be available to fund the budget. Now, if you look at 2020, the total federal revenue ended up being 3.42 trillion naira. This year's revenue to date is about 3.9 trillion naira. So I have to ask, why do you think the federal executive is confident that it can multiply revenue 2.5 times next year? I don't know. What do they know that we don't?
We call it in budgets. We call it the farewell budget. Where you. God forgive me, or maybe someone is on his deathbed and you're trying to make everybody happy. You're trying to, you're taking care of everybody. That's what this budget looks like. Because let's not forget, this is the last budget of the current president in a full fiscal year. Whatever you get for 2015, it would only execute for 5 months. Right. So technically, this budget that we see is technically the last budget of this administration.
Right.
And that's my problem. It stops everything and it packs everything in. And that's a really, really worrisome for me because, since this current government has been on, if I say current government, let me say since 2015, well, let's say 2016. Revenue in 2016 was 1.7 trillion. Revenue in 2017 was 2.38 trillion. Revenue in 2018 was 3.95 trillion. And I'm quoting from the presentation of the Minister of Finance. Revenue for 2019 was 4.5 trillion. Revenue for 2020, I think adjusted, was 3.9 trillion. So if you have only 3.9 trillion revenue, so why are you budgeting 8 trillion naira as possible revenue? Why are we trying to deceive ourselves? Knowing well that we don't have the capacities, to bring this kind of revenue to the table. The reality of that, it's not because there's the revenue target is 10.173 trillion for 2021. And for me, it's just that we can't even we have not gotten half of this revenue in the last 6 years.
And we keep putting it there.
We keep putting it there. And at the end of the day, we have not slowed down on expenditure. We have not. We've continuously kept our expenditure going as it is. So, and it will balance out in one way or the other. And I guess what we have learned is that the country itself is ripe for a total overhaul, a total fiscal overhaul. Because if you look at all the revenue lines itself, the chunk of federal government revenue is between what you get from oil, and what you get from the company income tax, a little bit from customs. And the part that has been significantly growing recently has been independent revenue. Maybe independent revenue from agencies of government like MPA, NIMASA, CBN, the independent agencies of government, which is around 600 billion. Now, every country that you see, every decent country, let me use that word, generates revenue from taxes. Because even what do you call the definition of a state? The definition of the state is the ability to protect your territory and the ability for the two to collect taxes. That's why the two things that properly define where you say someone is a state. So if you see a separationist group or a terrorist group carves out a part of your country and collects taxes from that, it qualifies, and it qualifies already as a state. So in a way, if we have government revenue, it's not supposed to be oil and non-oil revenue. It's supposed to be tax and non-tax revenue. So until Nigeria is able to rebalance its structure in a way that it is primarily governed, the economy is based on taxes. That is when you get a country that is a functional state, or what you call a state contract. That's when you now have what they call a state contract, which is you pay taxes to the government, and there's some expectations that you're having from the same government as much as possible.
It's interesting that you've gone down this road about taxes, because we've seen recently the state governments talking to the federal government, taking the federal government to court over VAT and other taxes. This draft budget seems to assume that the federal government will win that battle. Now, if we end up with the Supreme Court siding with the states, what will be the implication for the 2022 budget?
If it's at the federal level, it's minimal. The federal government takes only 15% of VAT taxes. If you look at I think the federal government does not even get up to 250 billion from value-added taxes. I think it's around that. So if the federal government, that is insignificant in quotes. When you look at an outlay of either 10 trillion, like they chose to call it, or even the reality, which is around 4.5 trillion. It's not a significant element. The problem I have with the decision is VAT taxation is chaotic in collection when it is decentralized. That is the problem, because you have an input element in the VAT tax for those who know how to do it properly, which means if I produce something of 10 naira, I'm supposed to take the VAT on all my production that I've paid, and also the production on the output, and subtract. That's the tax I'm supposed to pay per time. So that means if I produce in Kano, I bring all my inputs from Kano, and I'm now producing in Lagos. Now, where do I pay my taxes? Where do I make the subtraction? I mean, India did this, and it was a bit complex. Even in the UK, that does VAT, runs a centralized VAT system. What you see in like a US, like the economy like the US, that is much more like a federal structure like ours. In quote, Nigeria is not a proper federal structure, but US that has a federal structure is that they run sales tax, which is just a direct taxation on production and on consumption. So if I produce yam in Benue, it's taxed. If I bring that yam to Mile 12 and I sell it on Mile 12, it's taxed. If I take that yam and I make it in sweet in a eatery, it is also taxed. So in that way, it's still, but it's you now have a multiple taxation system that makes things expensive over time. But what you have done with that is you've simplified the process, and I guess maybe that's what would lead to, because the VAT system that we want to run, which means that someone that is that is serving the yam in an eatery will be calculating there's some taxes I've paid at production at my 12. So why am I paying? So I have to be able to subtract the VAT element of that from the final VAT that I'm charging the customer. It gets a bit complex in that way when the jurisdictions are multiple.
But if we end up in a situation where the Supreme Court sides with the states, it won't be that much of a loss for the federal government.
It won't be much for the loss of federal government, but I feel it will run into a political settlement in the end. I don't think it will.
It will get there.
Get it.
Okay. Well, let's talk about let's talk about some of the what's the word I'm looking for now? Some of the things, some of the figures that are not benchmarked against anything like historical data, right? Should the government be able to draft a budget based on revenue figures like that? I mean, wouldn't that keep leading to budgets with revenue shortfalls? Doesn't that get in the way of realistic budgeting?
So what you say is that you always have what you would call the off-cycle revenue items in the budget, and I'm going to explain what I mean by off-cycle. So a traditional Nigerian budget, a federal government budget, we have things like oil revenue, company income taxes, value-added tax, customs, federal levies. Recently, there's called stamp duty, but now they call it electronic money transfer levy. You would have, and those are the things you would say are the statutory revenue items, either come rate, come shine. Now, recently, what you get is that either the federal government overestimates that, or what you have is that they now find several items, they now pad to the revenue position with several items. If you look at the 2022 projection, you would see that there is you had around 600 billion from independent revenue last year. Why are we suddenly thinking that we can raise 1.8 trillion from independent revenue this year? Why next year? Why are we thinking that we would do 3x? And these independent revenue agencies are not that we're expecting new line. These are agencies that exist already.
We know them.
So you already
we know how far. We know their paper.
You know that. So what magical turnaround are you going to do
expecting
that will take independent revenue from 660 billion and suddenly make it 1.8 trillion?
Why? So it begs the question, why? Why do we do that then? There has to be some logical explanation for it.
Why we do
it
that?
Can't be faith. It can't be just faith.
No, why we do that is a deficit management. It's deficit management. So, for example, if you look at 2022 budget now, the budget is 16 trillion, 16.8 trillion. The revenue is 10 trillion. Let's assume that we are realistic with ourselves and we now say the revenue is 5 trillion. Or we push ourselves and we are nice and we say the revenue is 6 trillion. I mean, so that means you're having a deficit of 10 trillion. That will make no sense in any economic balance. So the federal government is just trying to hedge itself by saying, our deficit is not that bad, because yes, just what it is.
But people are not blind. People are looking at the numbers. Numbers don't lie.
Yeah, the numbers won't lie at the end of the year. I mean, if you look at, the numbers will not lie.
Numbers haven't lied year on year, and I mean, anybody with half a brain will look at the numbers year on year and say, okay, well, it doesn't matter what you think you're going to get at the end of the year. This is what we have been getting. It's not likely that you're going to get anything significantly more than you've been getting for the past few years. So, where's the management? I'm trying to understand that part. And I'm not understanding that part.
You have to understand that part because the deficit is what we are playing with here. The federal government has not restructured its revenue expenditure in a significant way. And also because the component of the expenditure that has been growing significantly is the debt servicing cost. The debt servicing cost last year was 3.2 trillion or something around that.
Okay.
That was the debt servicing cost. The debt servicing cost for last year was 3.34 trillion for 2020.
Okay.
Now, understand that we're also devaluing the currency, so the component for the foreign expenditure just gets much more higher.
Right.
Now, your revenue was 3.94 trillion. So in which sense do you make 100 naira and you spend 85 naira on servicing debt? Right. It just shows that your revenue structure is defective. And you have a compilation of 200 million people. Something is technically wrong. So in my own view, the federal government or the budget makers, they are stuck with, we want to spend money because I've not seen anybody slow down expenditure on the side of the government. As of August this year, the numbers show that the federal government has spent around 7.8 trillion naira as of August this year. and they made 3 trillion naira.
Mm.
So definitely you are even you spend 4.8 trillion naira
More
more
than
than
you're
you're
making, good lord.
making.
So
Yeah.
so 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 if debt servicing, and I think this is a question that you're going to have to just hold in your head and answer when we come back from this break, because if debt servicing cost as if debt servicing cost as a component of expenditure is growing,
Mm, mm,
and if it is growing even faster as a percentage of revenue,
mm.
isn't isn't the federal government headed into a debt trap? So that's a question. You just hold that in your head and answer for me when we come back from the break. And I'll also be asking, how many budgets do we have left before debt servicing becomes unsustainable, in the sense that we simply cannot run a budget? Lagos, I am Sandra Ezekwesili. We'll take a break. We'll come back and continue this conversation with Shingo Nigbinde. Don't go away.
An American company in Lekki, Lagos is recruiting qualified sales representatives that own a car and a valid driver's license. Are you ambitious, hardworking? Do you have a great attitude? Are you ready to take your career to the next level? Here's an opportunity for you. Please call 0815 705 0505 or 0905 637 4258 to book for an interview.
You are listening to your number one station for talk.
99.3 Nigeria Info.
99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk. To grow a business in Nigeria, your connections have to be strong. And I'm not talking about some godfather in the villa or plugs in the corridors of power. No, it's the small, everyday connections like how quickly do you address customer queries? How effectively do you track your staff progress? Yeah, that's the kind of connection we're talking about. And to be that connected, you need a reliable partner like Airtel Business.
That's right. With Airtel Business, you enjoy reliable, unlimited fixed internet that keeps all your business connections seamless. You also enjoy 24/7 dedicated care lines. Contact Airtel Business at ng.airtel.com today. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Nigeria's tech ecosystem is on the rise, attracting global investment and positioning the continent positively. What's the secret? Join experts from the tech industry at Development Bank of Nigeria's Maiden Techpreneur Summit. Theme: Starting Local, Scaling Global. Speakers include Inya Boyeji, founder Future Africa; Judith Okonkwo, founder Emisi 3D; Charles Anyanwu, director LSETF; Temigiwa Tubosu, founder Lifebank; Yemi Kerry, co-founder Rising Tide Africa; and Tomiwa Aladikomo, CEO Big Cabal Media. Thursday, 28th of October 2021 at the Lagos Continental Hotel, Victoria Island, Lagos. Time 10 a.m. Admission is free. To register, visit devbankng.com. If you're an MSME in the tech space interested in exhibiting, send an email to exhibitions@devbankng.com.
Development Bank of Nigeria, financing sustainable growth.
Everybody wants a big deal, but ask yourself, what is a big deal? How big must a big deal be to qualify as a big deal? Ladies and gentlemen, something big is coming, and it starts on the 5th of November, 2021. Wait for it.
Good things come in pairs like salt and pepper, bread and beans, sports and entertainment. Say what? That's right. Showmax Pro is bringing you the best of both worlds.
Everybody strap in. I'm about to open some windows.
Now you can watch live sport from Supersport.
In your life, have you seen anything like that?
As well as movies, originals, award-winning international and local shows, plus kids shows when you sign up at showmax.com.
To grow a business in Nigeria, your connections have to be strong. And I'm not talking about some godfather in the villa or plugs in the corridors of power. No, it's the small, everyday connections like how quickly do you address customer queries? How effectively do you track your staff progress? Yeah, that's the kind of connection we're talking about. And to be that connected, you need a reliable partner like Airtel Business.
That's right. With Airtel Business, you enjoy reliable, unlimited fixed internet that keeps all your business connections seamless. You also enjoy 24/7 dedicated care lines. Contact Airtel Business at ng.airtel.com today. Airtel, the smartphone
Jejo Kocha. I don't know how many words I must read in a minute. I play football, not Mr. Actor. I don't read scripts. I'm at my best when I feel this. That feeling, that's BetKing. Join us at betking.com.
As a partner who shares your ambition, we understand what it takes to break barriers and expand your business. That's why we're excited to introduce the Smart Business Loan from Standard Chartered Bank.
With the SC Smart Business Loan, you can get up to 20 million naira to expand your business. This is available to schools, manufacturers, retail and wholesale traders with no collateral needed. Smart Business Loan from Standard Chartered Bank is easily accessible. Simply contact your relationship manager or send an email to nigeriabb.products@sc.com or call 234-123-68475, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. workdays. To get started, visit www.sc.com/ng for more details. Standard Chartered Bank, here for good.
0700 4300. 0700 4300.
Akayode, kí ló ṣẹlẹ̀? Who owns this number you are trying so hard not to forget?
It is the number of the real estate company who are going to give me 100% dry land, which ranges from 700,000 to 7 million in Ibejuleki. And guess what? This land will sell for over 20 million to 50 million in the space of 2 to 5 years.
Why Ibejuleki?
Have you not heard? Lands in Ibejuleki appreciate with 300% within a period of 1 year because of the development in that area, like the Dangote refinery, the Free Trade Zone, the Lakapine Tropicana, Deep Sea Port, New International Airport, and so on.
Oh, really?
Of course! These properties are affordable, and not just that, you can pay for 6 to 24 months.
Wow. Who are they?
Vines Realty, a leading real estate company in Lagos, Nigeria, with affordable properties in the best locations just for you. Call us now on 0700 4300, 0700 4300, or visit our office at Suite 4A Dominion Plaza off Igboefon Bus Stop, Lekki, Lagos. Remember, think lands, think vines.
Sure you wanna feel that boost? Allow me to introduce Amber Energy Drink. No more shutting down, we're going up. Oh yeah, get ready, stimulate your energy. Amber is the remedy. Go around, tell somebody. Oh yeah, get ready, stimulate your energy. Amber is the remedy. Go around, tell somebody. Say, what are you waiting for? Yeah, now you can do more because Amber Energy Drink there for you. Amber Energy Drink there for you. No need to go too far, you can find it where you are because Amber Energy Drink there for you. Amber Energy Drink there for you. Amber there for you. Amber there for you.
Amber Energy Drink. Stimulate the energy in you.
Are you a professional? Want to earn passive income?
ehandtech.com, Nigeria's fast-growing digital academy, is your plug.
Oh yes. On ehandtech.com, we provide digital classes to thousands of waiting students across the globe.
From any location.
Simply register today as an instructor to provide digital classes to thousands of students. You can review your course, track your earnings, know number of students signed up for your course, and interact through Q&A. Visit www.ehandtech.com/instructor or email info@handtechdigitalconsult.com.
For those wondering why, Schweppes now comes in a new ginger flavor. Experience tells us. The boldest flavors have the most character. Introducing new Schweppes Ginger, a new flavor made with over 200 years of experience.
hospital. I wish I could, but the expenses are too much. Don't tell me you have not heard about LSHS Ilera Eko. Ilera Eko? What is that?
Lagos Health is our wealth. Ilera Eko.
Oh, yes! Lagos State Health Management Agency, LASHMA, has designed an affordable and quality healthcare scheme for Lagos residents. In Ilera Eko, at your convenience, you can have access to antenatal, delivery, immunization, management of hypertension, diabetes and other illnesses, family planning and basic emergencies. Register with Ilera Eko branded agents and at the nearest Ilera Eko branded outlets. Pay 40,000 naira annual subscription for a family package or 8,500 naira for an individual package and start to experience peace of mind. For more information, call 0700 Ilera Eko or 0800 Ask Lashma or visit www.lashma.com. Ilera Eko, affordable and quality healthcare for Lagos residents.
Before now, getting a good HMO that works perfectly for my staff was a lot of hassle. Many HMOs come with cumbersome registration. It gets worse when my staff come back to complain about the terrible service they get from these HMOs. I decided to give Reliance HMO a try based on glowing recommendations I received from my HR colleagues, and I was not disappointed. I was able to register all 100 staff in 5 minutes. I have access to a 24-hour responsive helpline and an account manager that helps me with any issue. My staff raves about the premium service they receive from Reliance HMO. They especially love the access to gym, spa, dental care, and the hospital roaming. I no longer worry myself about issues concerning HMO. Reliance HMO does that for me. I will recommend them any day.
Visit reliancehmo.com/corporate or call 0700-7354-2623 to get a quote for your company and start enjoying reliable healthcare today. Reliance HMO. You can rely on us.
Nice strike!
Guy, imagine say Messi, Ronaldo with Mbappe dey your house. Imagine the kind football experience where you go enjoy. Go imagine say you cross leg on top share, dey flex for your house because now our home, our football with La Liga, Serie A and Premier League.
No dey imagine things so. Go get your own GoTV decoder plus 1 month of massive
Yeah, that's the kind of connection we're talking about. And to be that connected, you need a reliable partner like Airtel Business.
That's right. With Airtel Business, you enjoy reliable, unlimited fixed internet that keeps all your business connections seamless. You also enjoy 24/7 dedicated care lines. Contact Airtel Business at ng.airtel.com today.
Airtel, the smartphone network. You are listening to your number one station for talk. Your number one station for talk. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
And today we're talking about Nigeria's draft 2022 budget. How realistic is it? I'm Sandra Ezekwesili. You're listening to Hard Facts on 99.3 Nigeria Info. I have the co-founder of Budget on the show with me. His name is Shenwon Igbinde. And before the break, we talked about some of the assumptions made in the draft budget. So we talked about the benchmark for oil. We talked about oil production. We talked about exchange rate, the real GDP growth. We talked about a bunch of things, right? And then we talked about the revenue that they're hoping to make for 2022, right? So this bill estimates that we're going to make 10 trillion naira in 2022. But again, Shingwan and I looked at revenue that we've made for a while, and we haven't made up to 5 trillion naira yet. So part of what we're talking about before the break was, well, where does this faith come from? Now, I remember asking Shaun to hold on to a couple of questions for me, right? So first one, if debt servicing cost as a component of expenditure is growing, and if it is growing even faster as a percentage of revenue, isn't the federal government headed into a debt trap, right? So that was my first question. And then my second question was, before the break, in Shaun's estimation, how many budgets do we have left before debt servicing becomes unsustainable, in the sense that we simply cannot run a budget? So Shaun, first of all, thank you for staying with us. Hello, Shaun. Shaun, can you hear me? Okay, it doesn't seem like Shaun can quite hear me yet, but I can see that he's live. I'm just hoping there's a way that we can get his attention. I'm hoping there's a way we can get his attention on the show. But anyways, Lagos, you can join the conversation by getting involved. WhatsApp is 080-959-75805. We've got Facebook, Nigeria Info 99.3, where we're streaming live, and we've also got YouTube, Nigeria Info FM. What do you think about the draft budget? What do you think about what Shaun and I have talked about so far? And what are your questions for Shaun about the 2022 draft budget? I'm Sandra Ezekwesili. This is Nigeria Info 99.3. Hello. Thanks for calling us.
Hello, Sandra. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for calling.
Yeah, I'm calling to make my own input and also my anger towards the proposed budget for 2022.
Okay.
One, let's just take this scenario. Let's just assume that there's a tsunami that warrants every Nigerian to depend on government to earn a living, and somebody present this type of budgets. I know it might be difficult for anybody to believe what I'm telling you. This budget is a budget of poverty, not budget of prosperity.
Okay.
If you divide this budget into the presumed 200 million Nigeria that may be or may be more or less, an average Nigerian should be going home daily with less than 50 cents. Less than 50 cents. Let's just assume that is what everybody depends on. That means Nigerians won't be able to cope with such budgets. That is one. Two, this is budget that is embedded based on borrowing from external people, mostly the Western world, thereby enslaving the future unborn and even the younger generation of today. It's a pity that we cannot do things right and put things in the right perspective. All we do every year, the president will come to National Assembly and present a budget. And some people who does not know what is statistics and figures will be clapping. This is the first time we are having a budget of that such magnitude of over $16 trillion. Now,
Naira.
what is the exchange rate in this country for somebody to be saying that that budget is a budget of prosperity? What is the cost of living today, an average Nigerian? What is the cost of doing things in Nigeria? Do you know that a lot of investors are afraid of coming to Nigeria because of obnoxious tax system in Nigeria? Can you imagine? Like I said sometime in one of your programs, one of the parastatals in Lagos, let me just don't deviate. But what I'm saying is that the way this government is going about things, they are not really want to, I don't think they really want to manage this economy to a better way where people will be able to say, be proud to call this nation our nation. How can you be borrowing such magnitude of money? Who will pay that money? And they have just how many years to leave office, leaving indebtedness to other people that will take over from them. It's a shame.
All right, let's leave it at that. Thank you very much for calling, Sharon. I wonder if you heard that phone call, and I wonder what your thoughts on some of the points that he made are.
I mean, debt is real. I remember when the current president was elected in 2015. You know, we had a bit of euphoria too, and ecstasy at budget. So we had this session called "Finding Money for President Buhari." You know, because we were clear. You know, I remember those times a lot of promises were made. Even our own estimation was like we'll take like 25 trillion naira annually. To be able to fulfill those promises. You remember those times we're going to give, was like we're going to be able to give almost 10 million people 20,000 naira per month. We're going to, you know, provide funding for everybody that lives in NYC for another extra one if they don't have a job. There were a lot of things that were said on the campaign trail. But most of those things have even been, you know, pulverized to dust now. But to be, and it just speaks to the fact that politicians want to do much or are not ready for adjustments. And at the end of the day, the revenue numbers does not support that. But one thing this government has done that is unprecedented is the fact of how they have used the CBN to provide support to it. I mean, CBN has provided at least 12 trillion naira to this government in support. In fact, I think there was a recent conversation to monetize or to securitize. That means to convert the CBN support to the federal government into debt, which has been fought by the SERAP. SERAP has a case in court against that decision. So when the revenue is not available, its debt is what we have taken, and it's just the reality of time. You asked the question very on break. There was a time oil revenue was enough. Now, and there's a time where oil revenue can't even pay your defense ministry. Oil revenues can't even pay the personnel cost of your defense and your police. So oil revenue is no longer enough. There was a time, there is a time now we can borrow. So that has become our escape valve, you know. But there is also coming a time where we will no longer be able to borrow. I mean, which means the only understanding is that the Nigerian government needs to rework its interest in especially on its tax architecture. I always say that. And two, also be able to be more efficient in expenditure. That would be the second thing that he has to do effectively. And thirdly is that you would need to build a productive society. As of now, we're not a productive society. You know, our export earnings, apart from oil, is relatively small. And we're not just doing enough, even to be able to expand internal revenue. So something has to change. You know,
I was asking before that break, in your estimate, how many budgets we have left before debt servicing becomes unsustainable, in the sense that we cannot run a budget. What do you think?
Well, it might take a while. There are two reasons why it might take a while. Is because one, our debt is heavily tilted on the domestic side. So, which means if the federal government can't pay debt, what's the worst that will happen? Tell CBN to print it and give everybody their cash and go.
Isn't that how we got to where we are right now? It doesn't.
Yeah, and that has implications too. I'm just trying to say that because we are not, our debt is significant. And don't forget, let's revert. In the early 2000s, when we were seeking the debt relief, the reverse was the case. We're heavily on the side of foreign debt. So we spent so much of the export earnings we have on servicing foreign debt. Now we are around 80% of our debt is in domestic terms. So because of that, the worst that would happen for your domestic debt is to print it and give it to the people. Now that loses value over time. That's just the reality. And if that continues, and that's why you see that you can't. The problem with economics or the story of economics is that you can't hold all values constant at the same time.
Right.
And the part of the values that we cannot hold constant anymore is the exchange rate. So we can do capital controls, we can do exchange rate, interest rate fixes, but we cannot hold the exchange rate because if you have a glut, a supply of domestic currency, you have so many naira in the system. So what naira is in the system, what would it do? It will chase the dollar because you are largely an unproductive country. And that's why the federal government trade balance continues, the deficit continues to widen because there's so much naira in the system that is changing foreign goods. Now, the CBN, if it has enough reserves, is supposed to be able to meet that demand. But CBN, for its own reason, chooses not to meet all the demands, which means people are going to look for extraneous means to meet their demand. And that's why you see whatever is happening in the exchange rate market. So for me, I don't think we are going to, because by the time you talk to a federal government official, they will say, our debt to GDP is 22%. It's small. And when you look at other countries, I mean, Greece of this world, Egypt of this world, Angola of this world, debt to GDP is around 70, 80. Even IMF says you can go to as high as 75, 80. But is there any country that is using 80% of its revenue to service debt? No.
Let's leave it at that. Seun Onigbinde is the co-founder of Budget, and he's always here to talk to us about Nigeria's budgets. I wish we had time to take a look at the allocation for different things. So I'm looking at education at 875.9 billion. I'm looking at the Defense Ministry. I talked about that initially. Defense Ministry getting what am I looking at here? 1.1 trillion. You have 410 billion going to social investment schemes. I wish we had time to get into this properly, but maybe we'll drag Seun back. He's quite a busy man, but I'm hoping we can. I'm hoping we can drag him back so that we can have this conversation. But Seun Onigbinde, thank you so much for your time.
No problem. You're welcome. Thanks so much, Sandra. It's a pleasure being here.
All right, Lagos. Let's continue this conversation, shall we? Our number is still the same: 01465-7190, 0700-993-993-993. I'm Sandra Ezekwesili, and you're listening to Hard Facts on 99.3 Nigeria Info. You can also find me on social media as Sandra Ezekwesili. 99.3. Hello.
Hello. Good evening, Sandra.
Good evening. Thank you so much for calling.
My name is Abdul.
Welcome, Abdul.
Yeah, I think the problem we have in Nigeria is leadership. Because I don't understand a situation whereby someone is broke, but you keep widening your recurrent expenditure. Nigeria is broke, but the leadership have not shown in anywhere where they are trying to cut the cost of governance. National Assembly are still getting what they are getting. The presidential villa are increasing what they use in feeding on presidential fleet. Everybody is going around with SUV around. Can't they cut cost? Cost. Instead of continuing borrowing. We borrow to a state that will not be able to pay.
Okay. Thank you very much. 99.3. Hello. Sorry about that. Call back if you can. Hello. Good evening.
Hello, Sandra. Good evening.
Good evening. What's your name, sir?
Yeah, this is Benjamin.
Welcome, Benjamin.
Yeah, I'm calling from Ikeja.
Welcome. Go ahead.
Sandra, if you ask me, I describe this budget as a budget of non-accountability. And not only that, the budget is full of treason, and that will lead us to national deficit, where situation, no good roads, no education, no industries, and this thing kept growing, and the leaders we're having, they don't care. Why? Because at the end of the day, this money is split by the senators, by the ministers, by the governors, and everybody goes there for national cake. And how do you expect? That means it implies that the level of our borrowing internationally will go to a level that it will land us to even giving out the fuel, the NNPC as a whole, as an international body coming to take over. So in this case, the only solution we need now, Sandra, if we as a citizen, we need to sit like the way we concurrently see that we should get our PVC. Okay. If we can get our PVC ready with these people, I think that's the only solution Nigeria needs now. Because if we say we should fist hand to hand with these people, there's nothing we can do.
All right, Benjamin, thank you for calling. Chika from Agbara says, take oil benchmark $65, $1 to Naira, 400 Naira. Hold it there via policies in both parallel and banks. Inflation, let customer regulation earn its money. They tell us what they earn and will earn in Naira, but tell us stolen contracts in dollar. I'm not quite sure I understand what Chiki from Agbara is saying there on WhatsApp, but I will say thank you for sending the message in. We appreciate it. This one is asking a question about loot recovered by government. Can it not be included in the budget? Well, I wish I still had Shenwo on the show. He's better suited to answer that question. But hey, I think that's all the time we have. Well, we already have Emmanuel's call screened, so I can afford to give him 60 seconds. Emmanuel, you've got 60 seconds.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, Sandra.
Good evening.
To me, this is a budget of failure. Imagine federal government spending 104 billion to serve a generator for presidency, and then 24 billion naira for meals in the presidency. And then the senators, they are still earning all these fat allowances here and there, and then the president doesn't care. So, for me, I see no future in this country. Thank you very much.
All right. I see a future in this country. You are the future of this country. I am the future of this country. So let's be a bit more optimistic. I know that the handwriting on the wall doesn't look good, but we all have to remain hopeful. And more than hope, we all have to continue to speak up, continue to hold these people accountable, regardless of how they feel about you holding them accountable. Hold each other accountable as well, because, the leaders are the people and the people are the leaders. These are Nigerians like you and I. So what is it about us as a people that makes it more likely for us to get the kind of leaders that we currently do? That's my final thought on the show today. You can find me online as Sandra Ezekwesili. Up next is the news. After that, conversations with Rufai. Tomorrow, the glass ceiling returns. And I have a question that I'm hoping that you will help me answer when we are live on the glass ceiling at 4 o'clock tomorrow. Do you find that when a woman starts earning more money than her husband, she's more likely to get beat up by said husband? There's this study that was conducted in Australia, and they found that domestic violence against women increased once they started to earn more money, once they got an increase in salary than their husbands. Do you think that that's something that happens here in Nigeria? I don't know. I don't have data for Nigeria, but that's a conversation worth exploring tomorrow. So join me at 4 p.m. for that, or join me at 3 p.m. for 3 of the biggest stories of the day, or join me at 5 for our business segment, Balogun and Broad. We'll be talking about how much you buy bread. That's tomorrow. Those were your hard facts, Lagos. Have a pleasant evening.
Hello, my name is Ronke from Ikorodu.
Hi, I'm Emeka from Festa.
My name is Ahmed from Apapa.
I want to tell you about my radio. My radio is my best friend.
My steady companion.
My radio keeps me informed
all day long with hot topics, trending news,
politics, and current affairs.
My radio gives me the best music.
My radio is
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.